Oh, we're coming at this one hard with clickbait, Charles. Yeah, we fully clickbaited this one. Okay, welcome back everyone to another recap with the Backpedal racing teams, e-racing teams that is. There was some catastrophes, but there was some great results from our teams in last week's round. I'm going to start off with the C's and then work my way through the B's to end on quite a good note with a special guest appearance. Now, a bit about last week's racing. It was tough. At least I found it tough, even though people were saying, hey, it's a sprinter's course, it should be fine, but there's like a small hill you have to do. It's not really a hill, but I don't know, Zwift decided to put like a sprint at the top of it, and kind of like, I don't know, it makes the hill more of like a sprinter's climb rather than a climber's climb. But we knew that anyway. But still, I found it actually quite hard, truth be told. This week's round saw some great overall results. 4 teams finished on the podium spots. No team dropped a place in GC, while 3 teams actually gained a spot in their league. Little Commas even won their race. So we have the stage results here. We have Little Commas who, as I said, they won their league race. The Ed Wannabes came 2nd, Spice Buns came 7th. Race was on Mercy 3rd, Amino Acids 6th, and the Southern Bastard picked up a 2nd place as well. So the overall league rankings you can see, and Mick has very kindly kind of done a nice emoji up for those that are trending, I guess, upwards on their rankings, which is brilliant. Now for the team league, this week's results, and I'll get to the actual recaps that the guys sent in a second, but the league standings, still a tight race to the top of our own league, as both the Wannabes and Ambassadors finished 2nd in their races. Also important points scored by the Racers Without Mercy and the Little Commas as they passed the Spice Buns and closed the gap in the Amino Acids. So as you can see there, yeah, 8 round of applause. So as promised, we're going to start with the Little Commas, and their recap goes a lot like this. Oh, headline clickbait. Little Commas all disqualified by WTRL after scoring top points in Paris race. What a night. An emotional roller coaster of highs and lows, lost sleep, resignations, and eventually the sweet taste of victory. The start was quicker than expected, 400 watts for the first minute before it settled. Then came the first climb and sprint. Yes, put those two together, where Marco and Jeff pulled big watts. Jeff, who powered in the PB, breaking numbers for 2nd place, Marco 3rd. Chris, aiming for a top 10 finish rather than sprints, came across the line in 4th. Chris is a powerhouse, by the way, still finding hidden depths. Parky ran PBs from minute 25 to 45. That's great job, Parky. Playing the long game once he got dropped out of the front group, but driving the pace, bringing him up to 40th at one point to 20th place, and Jeff, working in the same group, came 16th overall. Dougie rode hard, pushing his heart rate PB for 20 minutes to 192 beats a minute. Fundamental in keeping tactics on track and coaching all riders in the race. While contemplating his own finish in a very strong 9th place, he coached Marco into deployment of the steamroller at the last corner. Marco jumped on the wheel of the fastest guy in the pack, making a fantastic 2nd place. I remember reading, actually, about this, and I was ecstatic to see Marco pull a result. The tragedy started with Mike Box running in 20th place, having his turbo drop out on him again. Then Tim was waiting for the WTRL result only to find the whole team designated it as DQ plus 7, which seemed to indicate we were DQ'd for too many riders. Had Tim as DS rolled over the start line on his sofa from the DS pen, the initial euphoria turning to dismay and shouts of, "That's it, I'm not riding again." Overnight, WTRL disappointingly replied with no explanation. Sounds like the UCI. But a reinstatement of our results, great news. But also bad news, as Mike had exceeded power at 3.5 watts per kilo for over 20 minutes and thus promoted to the Bs. Well, it's a good and bad thing, I suppose. Little Commas rise again to 5th place in the league. This week's report of the Spice Buns is from our man in the mix, Jonas. On the first lap, Jonas managed to grab a few points in the sprint. while Buddy unfortunately mistimed his sprint and ultimately fell into the second group with Gavin, while Fraser had another hard start. Second lap saw Jonas drop from the front group, while Chris started his points harvest, which would see him grab points on the second, fourth and fifth laps. On the third lap, Jonas dropped further behind, while Gunnar was temporarily dropped from the front. On the finish line, Gunnar and Chris came 18th and 22nd in the front group, while Gavin and Buddy followed at 28th and 35th. Somewhere behind, Jonas and Fraser broke away from the trailing group though to finish 52nd and 53rd. A good two-up team time trial. This result cements the Spice Buns' position at 6th in the league with 2 events to go. The Ed Wannabes, and here's a report from Mick. The Ed Wannabes were prepared for a Watt Bomb Fest in Paris, as the opposition is well known after 5 weeks of racing. The first sprint saw FAL and FTS entries for the backpedalers, but after one lap, Jill had to stop riding as there was a missile attack alarm at his hometown. Unfortunately, not the Watt Bomb attack we were expecting. Alan, John and Mick remained in the front group of 20, while Jason and Paul were in the groups behind. Between the heavy hitters of the teams, the Wannabes were able to secure a couple of intermediate points, and when the finish came, Alan got a 4th place, John 5th and Mick 8th. Paul finished 39th, Jason 45th, and 30 minutes later, Jill finished last, 61st, but he finished. Plus, he got points. All these finishing spots are really important, as the Wannabes finished 2nd in the stage. 1 point ahead of number 3. A real team effort, and in the league they moved up to 3rd place with 2 points behind 2nd and 2 races to go. There's all to play for. The Southern Ambassadors. Now, race 6 was particularly meaningful for one of our teammates, and here is the pre-race message from team captain Alejandro. A Chilean cyclist died yesterday from COVID. Olympic athlete, Pan American medal winner, 30 years old, and despite his fitness, he suffered from severe complications to his lungs and didn't wake up from an induced coma. Sebastian Roman wants to give all this evening to dedicate a victory to our fallen compatriot. Sebastian had lost a good friend. They'd ridden together, travelled together, and partied together, just like real cyclists. The Southern Ambassadors responded. However, while Sebastian didn't get his wish to win the race, he didn't leave anything out in the course, sprinting to a top 20 with the leaders, helping the team move up to 2nd overall. Post-race, his message was short and simple. The amino acids next, and this report from Paul. A race to forget for the amino acids this week. Started with Daniel understandably having to pull out, but with Paul Hamlet, Piglet, who was having trainer troubles in his first race, stepped in at last minute, which was much appreciated. But that wasn't the end of bad luck, as right from the start, team captain Paul was placed with his back to the start line, so the start was extra spicy, waiting for the avatar to finally U-turn to join the back of the race. Theo Vadkis had dropouts. David Edwards lost comms. Piglet also had train issues in this race too, as I heard through the race chat. David got lengthed on the sprint section despite trying as hard as he could just to crack the top 10. A disappointing night, but still finished 6th and a non-mover in the division at 7th. Peter Robertson finished 12th and Piglet 15th was our highlight of the night. And finally we have the Races Without Mercy. And I end this communication with you with this communication from Mr. Bike Racing Without Mercy himself. Phil, take it away.
Well, Backpedal A1, aka Racers Without Mercy, comprised Ruben de Klerk, Tim Sido, Nick Brown, Bill, Craig Hurd, David Raynham, and Craig the Steamroller Ward. Steamroller with a nitroglycerine turbo, as you're going to see, plus professional, well-prepped and calm de-essing from Aaron. And allied to most of the team being powered by cornflakes and sugar, aka the EPO of the masses, confidence was high and quiet. But the level of concern soon hit a peak on the spring climbs, which were all, well, as you know, emotional. Tim, he scored big points on ascent number 1, and Ruben potted consistent points throughout the sprints. I have no idea how many points were bagged because the point system remains a sweet mystery to me. Now, gently, we encouraged Steamroller Craig to drag his arse up the climbs, and that included 3 jaw-dropping suicide sprints to get back into the front group, and one of them required him to sustain more than 1,000 watts for time. Also, Craig Hurd had a big fight back to get back into the second group with Tim. It was all very entertaining. And on the final climb, having commanded Craig W to contest the sprint finish, he, Nick, Ruben and David, all duly obliged, pampering themselves on the final descent in order to duke it out with a front group of 20. Now, as you'll see, I must confess, I lost track of what happened at the end, but I can report that a steamroller got P4, and the team a huge haul of 52 points. And rightfully, they rewarded themselves with a post-ride nutrition of kings. Nick took down 4 vegan burgers, a steamroller and McDonald's. Ruben, pie, chips and beer. What's going on with the beer? And unusually, David, Freight Train Raynham, demonstrated restraint in respect to the pizza, observing a minute on the lips, a lifetime on the hips.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this week's entry for the race recap. Awesome job from all the teams, all the riders, and particularly heartwarming message from the Southern Ambassadors there. So take care out there, everyone, and enjoy your bike riding.